On today's wrestling news, there's an update on the Vince McMahon lawsuit as a former WWE talent considers legal action. There's also an update on potential plans for LA Knight at WrestleMania 40. A fourth generation wrestler makes their NXT debut. And there's a health update on Steve Mongo McMichael. Hello and welcome to the wrestling news here, the solo Sunday news at What Culture Wrestling. Myself, Andrew Pollard. I hope you're well. I hope you're good. I'm a little bit raspy in my voice. Too much shouting at the football, but come on, the town. Nice little win there. I will happily take that. Right, into wrestling. And there's some new developments. I should probably say a warning here, a trigger warning, because this whole Vince McMahon lawsuit, of course, has lots of horrendous allegations involved in it. But there's a slight update here on this ever developing situation. So having been forced to resign in disgrace for a second time following allegations of sexual, physical, and emotional abuse by former WWE employee Janelle Grant, there's now some further details on the Vince McMahon lawsuit. Alongside McMahon, John Laurinaitis, several unnamed WWE executives, and a former WWE World Champion and former UFC fighter, who the Wall Street Journal identifies as Brock Lesnar, were all referenced in this lawsuit. Since then, John Laurinaitis has moved to distance himself from Vince McMahon, with Laurinaitis' attorney calling him a victim of Vince McMahon's. Now, Laurinaitis was believed to have had some sort of golden parachute. This is a report from Fightful Select, who note that John Laurinaitis was viewed as Vince McMahon's fall guy since the summer of 2022. Now, this golden parachute, that basically meant that he was going to be taken care of financially. However, once the possibility of charges being filed against Laurinaitis became a reality, that was the turning point for the relationship between John Laurinaitis to turn on Vince McMahon. And now, since being named in Janelle Grant's lawsuit, Laurinaitis' lawyer Edward Brennan has stated how, despite WWE denying all knowledge of the accusations, that WWE upper management were well aware of Ashley Massaro's claims that she was drugged and sexually assaulted during a 2006 WWE PR tour of Kuwait military bases. That was by a U.S. Army doctor. Was the allegations at the time. And now a W source has since told Fightful how John Laurinaitis thinks he's doing himself favors by saying management knew and proper WWE protocols were followed, but that too many things happened there under his watch. In addition to this, Fightful has spoken to one former WWE talent who is weighing the options of telling their own story, either through the media or by taking legal actions. And obviously, the identity of that person, of that former talent, has not been revealed yet, has not been made public, as it should not be until that person is ready to come forward, either legally or they want to tell a story, as mentioned, through the media. As for the unnamed WWE executives referenced in this lawsuit from Janelle Grant, the identity of those is said to remain a mystery to many within WWE. However, one high-up WWE source told Fightful that they're under the impression one of those executives had long been gone from WWE. So there's just a little bit of an update on this developing situation, which is just continues to be obviously horrific. And I'm sure that there will be a lot more to come in the coming months, weeks, years, who knows, with these sort of lawsuits, how they drag on, and more stories, more things come to light. So just a little bit of an update on that situation. And now moving from that to a slightly more lighter topic of LA Knight and his potential WrestleMania plans. Now, this also comes from Fightful Select. This comes from Sean Ross Sapp doing a Q&A mailbag where he was asked outright whether we might see Logan Paul versus LA Knight at WrestleMania 40. And the response was, that was the plan. I don't know if it still is the plan, but that was discussed at one point. So you're telling me there's a chance? Now, this is a match that a lot of fans have kind of speculated could be happening at WrestleMania. There are certainly seeds there to go back to if you did want to do that match. But I think even if LA Knight versus Logan Paul doesn't happen, if those initial plans, those initial discussions have maybe changed, at least the positive thing here is that WWE are looking at a significant role for LA Knight at WrestleMania. Because, I mean, whoever has the Logan Paul match, any Logan Paul match, that's a big deal to WWE. That's a big deal to the mainstream, because Logan Paul, love him or hate him, he brings eyes to WWE. He's a very big deal. I haven't got too much time for the whole social media shizness and all that stuff. And some of the stuff that you hear from what he did on some of his YouTube stuff when he's getting going is like, sounds pretty horrific, I'll be honest. But he brings eyes to whatever he does, and in this case to WWE and whichever match he's in. So whoever would be put into that means WWE is looking at them as like, yeah, okay, we trust them. That's a big deal. Now, Logan Paul, LA Knight, they have interacted on WWE TV before. I think it was in the lead up to Money in the Bank last year. And now both of them, they have qualified for the men's chamber match at Elimination Chamber next weekend. So if you wanted to get to WrestleMania and have Logan Paul versus LA Knight, you could easily springboard into that with whatever happens at the chamber. So yeah, I mean, there's also the kind of the rogue element of like AJ Styles. Would this, because you, I mean, easily you could do this as like a three-way match at WrestleMania with a US title on the line, or you could just pivot off and do LA Knight and AJ Styles at WrestleMania. You could do Logan Paul and LA Knight at WrestleMania. There's some options there in play. For me, it's like I'm kind of intrigued by AJ Styles' role at Mania, because right now it's like it's you could very easily see him against LA Knight, but then you could also very easily see him off the card, which sounds absolutely crazy because AJ Styles, he's not called a Phenomenal One for no reason. Now, switching gears down to NXT. I don't know why I'm doing that in the LA Knight voice, but there we go. It's 3 syllables, brother. So NXT. Brogan Finlay has made his debut for NXT. That came on Friday at a live event in Tampa, Florida, where he took on Charlie Dempsey. Now, Brogan Finlay, in case you're unaware, is the 21-year-old son of Fit Finlay. Charlie Dempsey, of course, is the son of William Regal, and Fit Finlay and William Regal, so many names come out. Fit Finlay, William Regal, longtime rivals, many brutal wars over the years across the world. So that's just in itself was quite a cool thing that he's making his NXT debut against Charlie Dempsey. And I mean, you could have those guys carrying on the family tradition of just beating the absolute tar out of each other. Now, not just is Brogan Finlay second generation, though, he's actually a fourth generation wrestler. So obviously the son of Fit Finlay, the grandson of Dave Finlay Sr., the great grandson of both William Finlay and John Liddell, and the brother, of course, of current Bullet Club leader David Finlay. So there's a lot of family heritage there. With that sort of heritage and that. That just brings pressure a little bit, and it's how you handle that. Some people thrive as a second, third, or in this case, fourth generation wrestler. Others don't. I think Brogan Finlay will be absolutely fine. But for Brogan, he made his debut in April 2021, worked for Action Wrestling, GCW, Black Label Pro, Beyond, and had a couple of matches for New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong as well. Now, he was part of a WWE tryout camp back in September, which that one, memory serves, I think that was the same camp that had Richard Holiday in it and Maddie Rinkowski. Now, Maddie's been signed and has since appeared on NXT as, Ren Sinclair. There we go. As for Richard Holiday, he did not sign with the company, which to me, he's one of the great. He was one of the great free agents out there. I believe he might have re-signed with MLW. I know he's back there, but yeah. Anyway, regardless of that, yes, Brogan Finlay was part of the tryout camp in September, was signed in December, and here we are in February. As if I had to check the calendar on my laptop then to say that this is February. Of course, it's February. But anyway, he's made his debut for NXT in February, and who knows when he'll be on TV. But it's just cool to see another Finlay cracking skulls, obviously on a platform now as under the WWE banner. Now, just wrapping things up as well in terms of news, because there are some questions which I will get to. My throat is feeling very, very raspy. I'm apologizing. And there's a health update on Mongo McMichael and Steve McMichael. Now, in case you missed it, he was hospitalized last week due to what turned out to be, initially it was thought to be pneumonia, then it was revealed to be a urinary tract infection. And the family of Steve McMichael provided a health update on the Pro Football Hall of Famer and former WCW United States champion. Now, this was posted on X by Jarrett Payton, who's a son of Mongo's Chicago Bears teammate Walter Payton. And McMichael has undergone a blood transfusion and Mercer as well, has Mercer. So as the update here, I'll actually read it for you. From the McMichael family. So Steve's currently getting a blood transfusion and as Mercer. We were asking for your prayers to get Steve through this difficult time. Steve, his family, and close friends believe in the power of prayer. Thank you. Now, back in April, I think it was of 2021, Steve McMichael announced he'd been diagnosed with ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Now, Mongo had a hugely successful. I'm no NFL connoisseur, but I knew of Steve McMichael before the wrestler side of things, just because he had this hugely successful career mainly with the Chicago Bears, where he won Super Bowl 20, I believe it was. That's what the internet told me this morning. But yes, that was from 81 to 93, I believe, with the Chicago Bears. Of course, appeared at WrestleMania 11 in the main event there, where he's ringside as Lawrence Taylor took on Bam Bam Bigelow. And then it wasn't even the following year. No, it was later that year. He joined WCW as part of the broadcast team for what was WCW Nitro, and that was the big launch for it. And then the following year after that, in 1996, the Great American Bash made his in-ring debut, where he turned on Kevin Green to join the Horsemen. Yes. So, there was a solid in-ring career there for Steve McMichael towards the end of the 90s, the second half of the 90s, won the United States Championship from Jeff Jarrett, and then dropped it to Kurt Hennig. But yeah, regardless of the wrestling, regardless of the football career, just lots of well wishes to Mongo at this time and to his family. Right, now let's get on to some questions to wrap this up on a lighter note. Where are we? Mark Soller's got in touch. There we go. Always, as always, on a Sunday, send me a picture of your pets. It puts a smile on my face when I'm very raspy throated and tired for some reason. But Mark's on touch with a picture of Apollo looking great in a cap. Morning, Andrew. Thoughts on what AEW wrestlers, male and female, who could become belt collectors? I'd say Daniel Garcia and Nyla Rose. Send them to New Japan Pro Wrestling, ROH, unify with AEW titles, TNA, and other promotions to help them as well. Apollo says hi. Hello, Apollo. I don't know. I think that the belt collector thing, I'm not a fan of it these days. I mean, when I think of belt collectors, the first one that comes to mind is Ultimo Dragon, where he had just like 86 championships at one point, it felt like. But I don't know. I don't know in terms of tying up, especially if you're talking mainstream promotions. So if you're talking AEW, someone to have a title from AEW, from New Japan, from ROH, from TNA, and other promotions, I don't think you want to tie up so many titles for those promotions on just one person, because it's hard for that person to maintain a presence on your TV regularly if they're your champion, whichever belt that is. And I don't know, in terms of if you're looking at kind of AEW wrestlers specifically, and the idea that it would help other promotions, I don't think it would. We've seen when AEW has used other talents, obviously there's the stuff going on at the moment with CMLL, and we'll see how that goes when Blackpool Combat Club. I mean, maybe that's a swerve. Bullet Club are coming too, but when Blackpool Combat Club go to Mexico to CMLL, we'll see how that goes. But for the most part, for me, I feel like when AEW has used wrestlers from other promotions or championships from other promotions, it's not really benefited that other promotion too much. Yes, it was kind of cool to see Kenny Omega as the TNA champion back in, the Impact champion, and in Impact Wrestling. That was kind of cool, but did it make too much of a difference to Impact? Not really. It was just a way for Kenny to say, look, I've got another promotions title. Great. I don't know. Yeah, I especially when it comes to AEW, I just think that what really, when you look at the crossovers with New Japan, yes, you have your Forbidden Door shows, but mostly it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's not a one-sided relationship, but it's very heavily favored towards AEW rather than the other companies. And you can argue that AEW is a bigger company than New Japan in terms of the reach it has. So there is the added limelight that comes from New Japan in that case, or an ROH or a TNA, but yeah, I'm not for that one. I mean, if I was going to pick somebody, if I had to pick somebody to be a belt collector from the AEW roster, I mean, Daniel Garcia is as good a pick as anybody. Or, I mean, Bryan Danielson that one would actually have my interest. As for somebody on the female side of things, Serena Deeb, I'd have Serena Deeb just go around cracking skulls, taking titles if I had to have somebody take belts from other promotions. Right, next question. Where are we? Let's have a little nose. Howie Potter's got in touch. With a cat sleeping. Fantastic. This is my flatmate, Remy. Remy looks fantastic, Howie. Thanks for sending that in. His favorite thing to do besides napping is to watch the solo Sunday news with me. Well, that's nice to know. Thank you very much. Now that Bron Breakker is signed to SmackDown, do you reckon I'll strap a rocket to his back? How soon till he wins his first championship? It's an interesting one right now because, I mean, if we're looking purely at SmackDown, Bron Breakker is not going to be going for the world title, Universal, Undisputed WWE Universal Championship anytime soon. That's going to be tied up with Roman Reigns and possibly Cody Rhodes. We'll see. So then you look at United States title, and right now it looks like the match for Logan Paul, as mentioned, could well be LA Knight at WrestleMania. So that kind of, in terms of strapping a rocket to him straight away and taking the title, that kind of takes them, both of those titles, off the table for now. And I think with Braun, you could just have him smash through fools, because while I'm sure a lot of you watch NXT, and I watch NXT, and I've seen how great Bron Breakker is, there's a lot of people who don't watch NXT, and I've only seen the small bits we've seen of Braun on the main roster, which is like literally a handful of appearances so far. There was that match he had with Dolph Ziggler on a Raw. Was that after WrestleMania? I can't even remember. But yeah, and then obviously there's the Royal Rumble. There's the recent appearance he's had on SmackDown and briefly on Raw. So yeah, there's a lot of people who aren't familiar with Bron Breakker. So you need to introduce him to those audience that aren't aware of him and just have him smash through fools. Just show little kind of couple of minute matches, 5-minute matches maybe, of what he's all about. That explosive power, that aggression, that speed. The dude's a freak athlete. So I think he will get clearly his moments to shine. He will get lots and lots of titles in the future. He will get WrestleMania main events. But I think for now, I don't think he'll be getting a title straight away in that sense. And I think if he was, I think he would have been put on Raw. And I think he would have, if they were going to go that route with him and go all in and just strap the rocket to him, as you said there, Howie, I think he would have gone and beaten Gunther at some point. But obviously they put him on SmackDown. So I think this could be a slightly slower build. And I'm all for it. Hector Garcia the third's got in touch. Happy Solo Sunday. Happy Solo Sunday to you, Hector. I don't know if it's solo, but happy Sunday to you. Anyway, taking into consideration all WrestleManias, if you're making a WrestleMania card and you can only select one favorite in each category of men's title match, women's title match, tag team title, IC title, US title, and one non-title related match, what are they? These are the sort of questions I love. I love all the questions. But yeah, so basically, if I construct a mini WrestleMania card with, we've got a world title match, a women's title match, a US title match, an IC title match, a tag match, and a non-title match from the history of WrestleMania. Are we talking? Oh, that's a lot to play with. Right, I think I'm going to start with the obvious one. If we're going to go for the Intercontinental title, it's my favorite match of all time, so it has to be on there. I'm going to go Bret Hart versus Roddy Piper at WrestleMania 8. That one's there. That one's done, boxed off. In terms of a non-title match, see Bret versus Owen, but I'm not going to double book Bret Hart, and I'm going to stay away from my worst instincts of just picking a bunch of Bret Hart matches, which is a fantastic instinct to have, to be honest. But no, I'm going to Bret and Piper are there. So in terms of a non-title match, I mean, it's gonna have to be. It has to be, because it makes me cry like a baby every time I watch it, even to this day. It's gonna have to be the Macho King, well, the Macho King as he was then, Randy Savage versus the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 7, retirement match. Macho Man, well, he becomes Macho Man at the end, reunites with Miss Elizabeth, who saves him from a beating from Sensational Sherry. Everybody cries in the audience. I cry at home watching it. It's yes. So the non-title match will be Warrior versus Randy Savage. Although a special shout out to Edge and Mick Foley from, was that WrestleMania 22, where that was just a bonkers match. So yes, we got Bret versus Piper, we got Warrior versus Savage. The women's match, I'm going to go, that's pretty straightforward for me as well. There's been some great women's matches, especially in recent years, obviously, of course, but I'm going to go Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks, WrestleMania 37, headline night 1. Just, again, emotion there. The emotion of those two stood, I can get goosebumps on that. Yeah, the emotion of those two just stood there, taking in the moment, struggling to contain their emotions. It just, yeah, there we go. I'm doing like a rock thing. I'm stealing a rock's gimmick, brother. But yeah, so that one gets on there for me. Tag team match. Last year's main event, of course, of night 1 was pretty darn special. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens against the Usos. You've got the Edge, Christian, Dudley Boys, Hardy Boys matches from WrestleMania 2000, not WrestleMania 16. That'd be it's WrestleMania 2017. Hart Foundation and Nasty Boys is a special place in my heart. WrestleMania 7, essentially the end of the Hart Foundation, that iteration of it. In terms of big time, I mean, WrestleMania 1, it's not the greatest of matches, but Hulk Hogan, Mr. T versus Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff. That was what got things off to the races. Bulldogs versus Dream Team as well. WrestleMania 2. I think a tag match. I'm gonna go with a car crash chaos at WrestleMania 17. The Hardy Boys versus the Dudley Boys versus Edge and Christian. Where else? What else was there? The men's title match. Ric Flair, Randy Savage, WrestleMania 8. That was another belter. Kurt Angle versus Eddie Guerrero, WrestleMania 20. The Seth Rollins cash-in, that was a massive moment. The 31. The whole Bryan versus Kofi at 35. Bryan at 30. The triple threat with Batista and Randy Orton. Austin and Rock 17. I'm going to go Ric Flair and Randy Savage. No, I'm not, because I've only got Randy Savage working the Warrior. Oh, no. So, I can't double book. So, in that case, I'm going to go Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston at WrestleMania 35. Just edging out Eddie versus Angle at 20. So, Bianca versus Sasha, Bret versus Piper for the IC title, Edge, Christian, Hardys, Dudleys at WrestleMania 17, Bryan versus Kofi. Is that it? Have we got US title? The United States title. There's not that many that have been like top draw exceptional matches. Riddle versus Sheamus at 37 was quite meaty and snug, so that's in there. Chris Benoit and MVP had a really good match at some point. Jericho and Kevin Owens at 33. I think I'm probably going to go with that. It's not, like I said, it's not an amazing match. There's not really been any like top level US title matches, but I'm probably going to go with that one with Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho from 33. Although we all know that belt should have been for the Universal title. Well, that match should have been for the Universal title. So yeah, that does take away from it. But that's a great question, Hector. It's a question that's taken up loads of time. So apologies for that rambling, and apologies to editor Ryan. Now I think that is it. That brings an end to the Solo Sunday news. We do have a quick. I've just seen here. I was about to log off from Andy McMahon. Has got in touch. What's his question? Happy Soul Sunday. Hope you're well. You're working for WWE and you have been put in charge of who's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. What will be your criteria for potential wrestlers and tag teams to be included? I think it's the impact of the business. I think it's the run that they had, the length of time there, the tenure, not just in WWE's, and you just take into account the length of the work presented, the impact on the business, the influence on the business, the match quality does go into it, but also the selling tickets, selling merchandise, drawing money, because that is what the professional wrestling business comes down to a lot of the time. Well, it does. That's the brass tacks here. We can all get excited about Dave Meltzer giving 26 stars to a match, but if it doesn't draw any money, it does not matter. In the business brass tacks of things, of course, it matters to fans, and that's great. But yes, so I think you look at whether somebody was a draw, how they impacted their time in the business, and what came after it. Yes, there is obviously clearly a case for match quality, and I just think, yeah, that's my quickly wrapping things up there, because that was the end of the Soul Sunday news, and that question dropped in. So thanks for that question, Andy. Hopefully that covers that one. But I've been Andrew Pollard here at What Culture Wrestling. This has been the Soul Sunday news. Have a great rest of your day, whatever you're doing, and I will not be back next Sunday. I'm actually off, so somebody else will be here. I'm not sure who or what the crack is, but yes, I'll catch you later. Have a great week.